First things first, I know that you have been told that this is going to be a talk about the theology of the body, and that is almost true. Okay. Actually, I will divide. We have 3 sessions, so the next session will be on purely theology of the body. Okay. Today, however, I'm going to take another approach. I'm going to take a more secular approach. I'm going to do something that I like to call the philosophy of the body. Okay. Don't be afraid. The word philosophy is there, but there is no much philosophy today. Just a little bit, not much. I promise you, I will be gentle with all of you. And why I do this is because I think it is important that Catholics today start to talk about the teachings of the Church with people who are not Catholic too. Very often we have in the Church 2 understandings of morality. That this is okay for non-Catholics, but for Catholics it is wrong. We have 2 sets of morality, one for non-Catholics and another one for Catholics. But is that the case? If you ask somebody, is genocide something right or wrong? People don't go around saying, oh, the Church says genocide is wrong, but for other people it is okay. If it is wrong for everybody, and if it is right for everybody. So we all are very much aware that the Church has this difficulty to communicate the contents of morality according to the Church to the rest of the world, today perhaps more than ever. There are issues like premarital sex, for example. So we all know that the Church frowns on those things, but many people question that. People question that to Catholics. Sometimes Catholics question that. I mean, if 2 people love each other, isn't it the natural thing that they express this love through sexual acts? And if that is the case, what difference does it make to get married? Do you think that people who get married love each other more the day after they are married than the day before they are married? Or is it about the same love? Do you think people love each other more 10 years after marriage than 10 days before marriage? Some people will argue that people love each other more than 10 days before marriage. So if sexual activity is justified by love, then perhaps premarital sex should be more illicit than some post-marital sex. I'm sure all of you have heard these questions before. What is wrong with this? And many people will tell you, okay, I don't know, the Church says so, you just obey because you are in the Church. That is not a very healthy understanding of morality, to do things because the Church says so, because the Pope says so. Okay? So let us now, for a while, forget about these controversial issues of premarital sex, contraception, and all that. Let us choose a topic that is perhaps more obvious for all of you. So how many of you here think that prostitution is morally wrong, morally unacceptable? Raise your hands. So most of you raise your hands. How many think it is okay? Raise your hands. That's the problem with the cameras. Okay. Let me, just in case some of you are tempted to raise your hands, let me tell you what morality is all about. Morality is not whether I think it is okay for my neighbor to do that. I'm sure many of you say, if my neighbor wants to do that, it is up to her. But that's not the question. The question of morality is this a good behavior? And the right question, if you want to translate it in normal terms, it would be, do I want this for someone I love? By the very definition of love, love is to will the good of the other. So if you want this for someone you love, you say you think it is okay. But if you think that someone you love, your mother, your daughter, your sister, you think that they should not engage in prostitution, it means that you think this is something bad. Okay? So that's the question. And all of you said no, but I have to ask you why. Okay? So I'm going to ask you questions, and now you have to answer me. Okay? But before you answer, let me just tell you more about what you said it is immoral. Okay? Let me introduce you to Mrs. Sofia Yusuf. This is a real case. It happened in Oxford many years ago. She was a Malaysian lady, and she was very good in mathematics, and she went to Oxford to study. At 23, she was working as an escort. An escort is a high-class prostitute earning $360 an hour, which is a pretty good salary. And this is what she has to say about this. Okay, people say that escorting or high-class prostitution is sleazy and terrible, but I don't think it is so. She said that she always had a high sex drive and now she's getting all the sexy ones, and she's getting paid for it. And people treat her better than they treat their girlfriends, she says. But one of the things she said is that one of her clients took her on a ride on a helicopter around London. Another of her clients took her shopping, and she could pick any handbag she wanted, and she would buy the handbag for her. So people think that prostitution is demeaning, that the clients are mistreating the sex worker, but she knows that may be the case in some examples, but it is not her experience. So now that we know one of these cases, now my question to you is, what is wrong with it? Because as I see it, she's very happy with it. I presume the clients are also very happy. So there is nothing wrong with that. So many of you raise your hands. So I suppose you are all grown-ups and you have good reasons to say what is wrong with that and why you raise your hands. So may I hear some of the reasons why you think it is morally wrong? Okay, let me ask again. How many people said that you think that prostitution is wrong? Raise your hands. Okay, now you raise your hands. Now I have to. I'm sure you have a good reason for that.
Two reasons.
Two?
Well, since you picked that,
We are in luck today.
Firstly, I think your body, at least for me, my body is sacred. It's very personal, and there's to give up. Be sexually involved with someone. You need to have some. You're giving up a lot when you do that, right? You just casually enter into a casual relationship, and yeah, so that's one. It's just not right, like your body. I mean, find out right words.
Yeah, we try to understand why it is not right. Yeah.
Because it's the body of Christ. I mean, for me, it's my body, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so when you give that up, and the other thing is, by prostituting, you encourage bad behavior also from the other party, and might break up marriages, or it might cause, the other party may have another relationship.
Okay, so two good arguments that the body is something sacred, but you have to say that that is something wrong in order to say that because it is sacred, you shouldn't do it. So it still begs the question, because there is another lady who gives massage, and that is nothing wrong with that. I suppose you see nothing wrong with a lady giving massage to a client, right? A normal, ethical, morally right massage. And also her body is equally sacred, and the body of the client is equally sacred, and there is nothing wrong with that. So you have to say that what is wrong with it in order to say that because your body is sacred, you cannot do that. And then the second argument was that it may encourage bad behavior. Let us, just for the sake of the discussion here, she's a very ethical escort. So she only takes clients that are single, so that she doesn't encourage adultery, just for the sake of the discussion. In that case, would it be all right?
You pick me again?
No, okay, no, I can change. Anyone wants to defend her? She's now like a bit in trouble. Do you feel like you want to help her a bit? Nobody wants to help her? Come on, you're all Catholics. You are very convinced of your ideas.
Okay.
A brave gentleman there. I'm so happy to hear you.
My stand is that we are made in likeness and image of God, and we are to carry it as a banner. We are the banner of Christ. So we are like
Yes, I understand.
advertisement.
That's a very good try, that we are made in the image of God, but she is not Catholic. She may not believe the same thing, which creates this problem I was talking about. Does it mean that there are two moralities? That if you believe that God created you, all this is bad, but since she seems to be Muslim, or perhaps she's now a free thinker, by the way, she's now a good girl and all that. It is a real case, but don't worry about her. Okay, she changed. She's now kind of a new person. But let us talk about the behavior, not her. Okay. So it means that if you don't believe that you are created by God, then it is okay for you to do this. There is nothing morally wrong with it. Okay, yes.
I would say self-respect. If I respect myself and I know what I'm worth, and I put a value on my body, and not just anyone is able to use it. And no matter how desperate, I hope I can find an alternative.
Okay, that's a good try. That the body is, you said,
Self-respect.
self-respect. Do you think that if you ask her whether she has this self-respect doing this, what would she say? I think she would say, yes, I have self-respect. And just like a lawyer engages his intellect to earn a living, she engages her talent and earns a living. And she's very proud of what she was doing, or she was very proud of what she was doing. And she doesn't think that she's losing any self-respect at all. And if you ask the clients, it seems that the clients respect her a lot too. I mean, this client took her to bought a Gucci dress for her. That's not something the average parishioner does with a priest. Not that I want a Gucci dress, please don't take this as a hint. But if you are talking about self-respect, it seems that the clients respect her a lot, and she feels that she's respected.
I feel that the client,
feel-
she's an object of lust for the client, to the client's eyes,
Object
definitely.
lust.
And if for, let's say for survivor, she didn't need to
Yeah.
go into this prostitution.
No, it's not a matter of survival, it's a job.
Okay, but then I think also that I still think that it's immoral, this behavior.
Because the issue of lust is an interesting issue, but bankers.
There's no pure love involved.
It's not pure love, that's absolutely right. Yeah, but
So
everybody
she's
knows.
using her body
Yes.
to get what she wants.
She's using her body
for
to earn,
satisfaction,
to earn a living. To
for
earn a
the
living.
goods. Huh?
Yeah, but footballers do that and everybody likes them. Yeah. And it is just a job. And the issue of lust, many things, many jobs will be questionable if you raise that issue. Aren't bankers fostering the greed of people? So, if prostitution is bad because it encourages lustful behavior, maybe bankers encourage greedy behavior as well. And maybe the clients are not lustful, they are just tense on that day and they don't know what to do, nothing in TV, so they go and get this service for a while. So we have established, okay,
by prostituting herself, she's reducing her gift of sexuality as to a transaction, to a financial transaction.
absolutely right.
And by doing that, when she really is ready to give herself to her husband in future and have children, for her, that gift will always be, or will be cheapened by this experience that she has given that gift as purely a financial transaction. And so, when she truly wants to give of that gift, then it is no longer of true value. And then, it's her perception of her sexuality, her sexual gift, that now is cheapened and will continue to be cheapened. And this will undermine her future marriage, because if she sold it for money, what's wrong with cheating on your husband? What's wrong with
Okay, two issues. Perhaps she doesn't intend to get married and have children, but even if she does, she could say, when I get married, I will make a promise to my husband and I will keep the promise. Until I make the promise, I don't need to keep the promise because I didn't make it in the first place. And the issue of cheapening, this is a job. So you say it is a commercial transaction, and that is absolutely right. But so is any service. So how is doing any service any cheapening of the person? Wow, just a lot of help. Sure. She's closer.
Oh, sorry,
No, it's okay.
I was thinking, sex is sacred. Your body is sacred. Okay.
Who said that?
I mean, that's the value you place on your body. You're a Christian, so you can give everything away, but there's one thing that at least is valuable that you should keep for someone whom you really love.
Mm-hmm.
To give it away to, rather than us, everything can be given away, everything you can afford, this thing, is very valuable.
Yeah, but this thing of the sex being sacred is like,
It's a body of,
maybe because that is your own belief, but not everybody has that belief. And doesn't mean that if you don't have that belief, it is okay for you to do it. And if your mother, your sister, your daughter doesn't have that belief, would that be okay for her to do it? Okay, the last one, because this is getting too interesting and I need to move on.
I was just thinking that the sex, for humans to have that sex drive or urge is natural. God has given us as a gift. But if we don't use our intellect and will to control ourselves, then we are no different from the animals. So when you want to just do it, yeah.
Well, but she does use, sex is a gift, and so is intelligence, and so is talent. And don't we put our talents, our given talents, our gifts, at the service of others to make them happier? That's what she's doing. She can control herself, but she chooses to control herself in a way that can help other people. And the clients seem to be very happy. The last one, okay, the last one.
Father, I think this one there's no right and no wrong. Okay? I
Thank you.
God made us this way, man and woman. And then if she feels sexy and she wants to do it, it's her free choice.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is she's young, she's beautiful, and maybe she was brought up in a very restricted family and extreme. So when she grow up, she just wants to enjoy the freedom of her life.
Finally, someone who agrees with me. Okay. Okay, just for the sake of, just a disclaimer, I don't agree with her, okay? But, sorry, after that, we ask questions because I need to keep my time, otherwise we don't finish at 10, okay? Am I making a point so far? I'm not choosing these controversial topics like contraception, premarital sex, something that is obvious for most people. But most people will think, even if you think it is okay for your neighbor, when it comes to someone you love, and your sister, your mother, your daughter tells you, "Mommy, I want to be a prostitute," very few people will say, "Very good, nice career. I will support you morally and materially all the way, and I hope you become the best in Singapore." Okay? Very few people will do that. And still, when it comes to give reasons why we do that, it seems to be very difficult. So, this is why I choose to talk about the philosophy of the body. It would be very easy for me to tell you, the church says it's wrong, if you do it, you have failed to fulfill the commandments. But why don't we say that when it comes to genocide, when it comes to rape? You ask people why rape is wrong, nobody will say because the Pope says it is wrong. So why do we have these two categories? And I observe Catholics very often, they use the teaching of the church as an excuse. I don't know why, therefore I go to the excuse and say, oh, the church says so, I solved my problem. But is that really convincing? And if the church says so, there must be a reason why the church says so. Maybe the church says so because Christ said so, because God says so. But even if God says so, he should have a reason why it is so. Okay. So this is what I will try to solve today. I'm going to give you reasons why it is wrong. Let me tell you why you cannot tell me convincingly that it is wrong. Okay? It's going to take a little bit of a while, a little bit of effort. It is a little bit philosophical, but just bear with me. Okay? There is one understanding of the body that assumes that the body is something your mind is using. That you have your phone, you have your body, you have your car. These are things that are not you. You are your mind. Your memories of the past, your plans for the future, your emotions. This kind of thinking is called dualism. And there was a particular kind of dualism in the 17th century invented by a philosopher called René Descartes, whose picture you see there. He's more famous for having said, I think, therefore I am. Have you heard that sentence before? I think, therefore I am. Okay? So what are the implications of that sentence? The implications are that I am my thinking me, my mind. My body doesn't think by itself, and therefore I am not my body. I could be myself without my body. And this is stressed by the fact that when you know you will die, your body will be left behind and you will go up to heaven, hopefully. Okay? So it makes perfect sense to you. The ethical implications of this is that just like you can lend your car and you can lend your phone to someone, and that has no ethical implications, you can lend your body in the same way. There is another reason we don't have an explanation why prostitution is wrong, is because today we think about morality in terms of benefits and harms. So you will have this scale in our heads. And on one plate we put burdens, on the other plate we put benefits. And then you weigh. And if what you do have more benefits than harms, then it is okay to do. And I know this is the way you are thinking. And many of you were thinking in those terms. And I know that that is what you are going to do. And she was saying, oh, you will create all this harm. Some clients will be committing adultery. And I knew that. I knew that that is what you're going to do. You're going to put some harm in some plate. So I carefully remove it. So that if I give you an example of prostitution with no harm, you will be totally confused, as I hope I have shown. So, what are the implications of this thinking? The implications of this thinking are we are free to do whatever we want as long as we don't hurt anyone. Okay? And now you understand why, what is wrong with prostitution, what is wrong with premarital sex. They love each other, it is consensual, they don't hurt anyone. What is wrong with pornography? It is consensual, you don't hurt anyone, and so on and so forth. We could go through all the teachings of the church on morality, and it would be the same conclusion. So any behavior that is consensual and not harmful must be tolerated. That philosophy was invented in the 19th century by that fellow over there called John Stuart Mill, another philosopher. So no more philosophy, finish, okay? But for the meantime, this is what I know you are thinking. Every time I ask you a moral question, you will be thinking about these three questions. Is it done for a good purpose? Does it hurt anybody? Is the person's autonomy and consent respected? So even if I give you something that's obvious as prostitution, I know it passes these three tests. And because it passes these three tests, you don't have any valid answer to this. So this is what most people think today about morality. What is done with good intentions, without harming anyone, or with more benefits than harm, and consent should be permissible. So to wrap up, this is more or less how it works. Right and wrong depends on the balance of harmful and beneficial consequences. My body is just a tool of my mind, just like my clothes, my computer, and my car, and was invented by René Descartes and the one by John Stuart Mill. If some of you have watched the movie Avatar, this is a very good example of how we understand the body. In the movie Avatar, if you want to inhabit this other planet with your body, you will die. So what you have to do is you transfer yourself into the body of this creature that inhabits this planet, and then you can jump around and run around in another creature's body, and it is still you. Why? Because you are your mind, not your body. And therefore, you can be you perfectly in anybody's body, so to speak. So if you put these two ideas together consistently, it is okay for you to use your body as you want, as long as you don't hurt anyone, and therefore use protection in sex. And this is what has become the landmark of morality today. If you see the headlines today and say, 13-year-old has unprotected sex with strangers, and you read that, if my grandmother read that, she would say, oh my goodness, 13. Today we read it and say, oh my goodness, unprotected. Okay. Why? Because it is protection that removes the harm. And as long as there is no harm, it should be consented, it should be tolerated. So all you need for sex to be morally good is affection, and all you need for sex not to be bad is consent and protection. And this is where people disagree. And people think that they disagree, but they don't disagree. They are basing their criteria on the same thing, on the same criteria, on the same judgment. So if you want to be on the conservative side, you will say that, okay, you need affection for sex to be meaningful. But that doesn't answer the question. What if two people don't want it to be meaningful? As long as it is not harmful, there is consent, there is protection, then it should be okay, as the example I put. So this is more or less what we know today. So this is the first idea. Okay? If we believe that our bodies are merely the tool of our minds, and morality depends on the consequences of our actions, then most sexual behavior should be permitted, as long as it is harmless and consensual. And this has nothing to do with the church. This is one of my main points. I want you to understand that if we are talking about these things, it's not because the church is backwards, lagging behind the times, doesn't understand the world, it is so strict. It has nothing to do with that. Because if you tell me that the church is unreasonable, I could tell you today that most of you were unreasonable today, because you are saying that prostitution is wrong and you don't give me valid reasons why it is wrong. So you will be just as unreasonable as many people accuse the church of being. Okay. So this is the plan for today. Let us take a look at this relationship between body and mind. Then 3 ideas I want you to remember, only 3. Okay? This, number 1, what is the relationship between body and mind that the body communicates, and what is personal? Only 3 ideas for today. Next day, we will talk about theology of the body. Today, no theology, no God in this picture. Why? Because I want us to understand better all these issues that we are discussing about. And then, and only then, we are ready to understand something deeper, which is what is God's plan for humanity and why did He create us male and female. That would be the next day. For today, let us make this as secular as possible. Why? I don't want you to use the church as an excuse when you don't have real reasons. Okay? So let us go to the first topic. Okay? So this is what people think. Okay? That your mind is the puppeteer, your body is the puppet. And I decide to raise up my hand, and I do like that, and my mind tells my body to lift up my hand, and my hand goes up. Okay? So that's how we perceive our relationship. That the mind is the driver, the car is the body. Okay? Another way of putting it, it is that this is you, your body is around you, and you use your body to interact with the world. Okay? So that's the first paradigm. My body is mine. Okay? That we are like computers, so your body is the hardware and your mind is the software. And you can remove all the software from the same machine, put it in another computer, and voila, all your memories, all your pictures, and all your documents are there. It is your computer in another hardware. Or, like the case of the avatar, that you can put your mind in another body, and it will be you, because you are your mind and not your body. And if it is true, we understand ourselves in these kinds of layers. On top, you have you. Who is you? You are your emotions, your plans for the future, your memories. All these things are you. And what is not you is your body, your limbs, your senses, your organs, and that includes, of course, the sexual organs. But remember that it's not you. And today people say it is only sex. What do they mean by only sex? It means nothing of me, just simply mine. And so my mind uses my body to express my emotions, whether it is affection or romantic love. So let us try to test this. So you have there few things: annoyance, boredom, love, shaking hands, hugs, holding hands. Let us make an experiment here. So imagine that you are that circle over there. So there are aspects of yourself that are more superficial and aspects of yourself that are deeper. You made a decision that is quite superficial, is where to sit here. So you can change that decision without changing yourself. It's something that you can change easily. There are other decisions that you made in your life that are much deeper. The religion you believe in, whom you are going to marry, perhaps where you are going to live, what kind of education do you give your children. Of course, those decisions are much deeper decisions, right? They are not as superficial. So do we understand this? Let us play a game now, okay? So I'm going to number the layers of depth and superficiality. So let number 1 be the most superficial, and then number 2, and then number 3, and then number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 would be the deepest aspect of yourself, okay? So now we play and say, when you are annoyed, something that disappoints you, okay? How superficial or how deep is that? Give me a number. How many people say number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, annoyed, number 5? You have to choose your layer. We understand how it works? Okay? So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Oh, people are deeply annoyed in the number 5. Okay, number 5. So number 4 would be the majority. Okay. Let us choose boredom. You are bored. Is that something deep in your life that is going to traumatize you for life, and it is something that can easily change? Number 1, number 2, 3, that's it. Okay, love. When you love someone, it's something superficial that you can change anyhow, or it is something that speaks of you deeply. Number 1, number 2, number 1, love number 1. Just yes, okay, I like that. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, we need 5s, number 6, number 7. Okay. So you know how it works, right? Let me change the game now. Place your body in your mind. So in these layers, where would you put your body? Okay? Your body is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 6, number 7. Okay, very confused crowd. Okay, let me explain it a little bit. Okay, if you say number 1, it means that your body is entirely superficial. If you say number 7, it means that any change in your body is a deep change in yourself, that you almost changed your identity. That if you color your hair, you need a new passport with a new name because you have changed yourself totally. That doesn't seem to be the case. So 7 sounds like too deep for the body. Okay? But number 1 is also, if you change sex, would be something very superficial or something more important. Okay. So let me just propose to you something. Let me propose to you that another paradigm. Okay, this is more or less what people will say, that you put boredom there, and more or less this is what people say. Many of you agree with this. Shaking hands, hugs, holding hands, shoulders, sexual organs, they will be there. So this is what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing to you is that the body is not in one of the layers, it is in all the layers. But just like the mind, it has depths of intimacy, layers of depth, if you want. Let me try to explain you how it works. If you go to the bus and there is this stranger that jumps at you and starts to hug you, how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable and appreciated and loved, or do you feel threatened and intrigued and totally horrified, perhaps? Most probably the second. And why is that? usually we give access to our bodies according to how close that person is to us. So we can shake hands with strangers. So hands will be this part of the body that we can exchange or we can use in a very superficial interaction. Okay? Hugs will be something we reserve for people we really know and appreciate. Friends, perhaps. It depends on culture as well. But even if it depends on culture, there is these levels of depth and intimacy. And of course, I want to assume that you only expose the most intimate aspect of your body to the most intimate person in your life. So if that makes sense, it means that my theory of the spiral for the body, it makes sense too, because it just matches that experience. So I'm going to propose that the intimacy of the body stands for the intimacy of the person. And that is why you feel horrified if a stranger hugs you in the bus without any reason. So I'm going to consider to offer a counter paradigm. On the one hand, you have what most people think. Only my mind is me, my body is not me, only mine. It is the physical tool of my mind. I'm going to propose that our bodies are also us. That our bodies are something that we are, and our body and mind interact with each other to take care of ourselves. That the body is not only the physical instrument of the mind, it's not the driver of, it's not the car of the mind. That yes, it is true that my mind uses my body and I can lift my hand like that, but it is something else. That my body also informs, asks, supports, and uses my mind. Both together take care of me. And I cannot be me in anybody else's body. So I'm going to propose that the body is not only that physical structure with which we interact with the world, that we are like this spiral. Me, I am made of body and mind equally. So, and if that is true, then we are not like sandwiches, we are like sushi rolls. Okay? We are all rolled into one. So body and mind are all rolled into one with different inner layers. There was an old movie in which there is this indecent proposal. Some of you will remember. There's this couple, madly in love, newly married, that have an economic problem. Okay? The bank is going to take their house because they cannot pay. So they have no money. What they do is they go to Las Vegas and they bet the last few $thousands they have. Obviously, they lost it, and now what do? Luckily for them, there is this millionaire observing the scene, and he says, I'm going to make you a proposal. I will give you $1 million, just like that, for spending one night with your wife. So they go back to the hotel and start to think about this. Okay? So we do this. There is one sentence at the end in the movie, of course. She does that. And why does she do that? She does that because she has this interesting sentence in her mind. It is okay because it is only my body. What does it mean? It is only my body. It means that it is not me, because me is my emotions, my love for my husband. As a matter of fact, she's doing this precisely because she loves her husband. So this is just an expression of her love for her husband. And because it is only her body, it is perfectly okay. I mean, imagine someone tells you, I will give you $1 million if I can borrow your car for one night. What do you say? Please borrow my 5 cars, right? Okay. So it seems that it makes perfect sense with that understanding. The question is that true? If our body is not something we have, but something we are, then the right answer is, it is not only your body, it is you. And if you share your intimate you with a stranger, it is not so intimate anymore. So this is the first point I want to make. And as I said, I don't want to impose anything on anyone. I just want to make ourselves aware that we are in these crossroads. That today most people think, according to the trodden path, that our bodies are simply the tool of our minds, that sex is only physical, love is emotional and personal, but sex is not. That my mind decides how intimate the intimacy of my body is. Okay? I am proposing the alternative path, That I am my body too, my body stands for me, and the intimacy of my body stands for my intimacy, always. And there is nothing you can do about that. So that's the first idea. So I'm going to go through 2 more ideas, but I want you to remember the first one. So the first idea is, my body is me. Okay? Now we move on to the next idea. And the next idea is that bodies communicate. You don't need to learn Chinese or English to know what that child is saying. And the reason is because our bodies communicate. Dogs communicate with each other, and certainly they don't speak English or Chinese. Animals communicate constantly, and not only they communicate with each other, we understand them. When a dog is excited, you see that he's very happy. When he's afraid, you understand that he's afraid. Okay? So, our bodies have their own language. Just like we have cultural languages, our bodies have their own natural language. And what is natural, we cannot change like we change culture. Culture is something we change. We invented it and we change it. And the meanings in cultural languages, like the meanings in English, continually change according to how we use them. All right? So the meaning of a hug, for example, is something that is written in the language of the body. It means that 2 persons are very close to each other and they want to express their affection in that way. So you cannot take a baby and say, every time I hug you, it means I hate you, you run away. Every time I kick you, it means I love you very much, you come for more. Okay? The baby or the child cannot understand that. Why? Because his body understands what a hug means and he doesn't need any translation. It is all written in the dictionary of the language of the body. This is very important to notice that this dictionary is a natural dictionary, which means we cannot change it. It is just in the same way you cannot change the number of fingers that the human hand has. You can chop them off, but in the future babies will be born mostly with 5 fingers. You don't change the pattern of human nature. Okay? So this dictionary is a natural dictionary and it has meanings that are already predetermined. As a matter of fact, there are things like, for example, smiles. Smiles are things we don't learn. They are all written, they are innate, they are in the dictionary of the body. A blind person who has never seen anyone smile will smile spontaneously. Okay? That doesn't come from the culture, it comes from his human nature. Okay? If language of the body is something very specific, then, and it is used in a species to mate with each other. Why is this important? Because if one species mates with another species, they are wasting their time and they are wasting their genes as well. So it is very important for animals to know that they are mating with this particular species, and in that language, so that in mating they have this language of the body working for them. So, but what does it mean in human terms, the language of the body? If this is true, the sexual act will be part of this language of the body. So what does it mean? So what we said before is the intimacy of the body stands for the intimacy of the person. So what is the sexual act? The sexual act is the union of the intimacy of the body of 2 persons. So if that is true, it is very easy to understand what it means. It means that 2 persons are united in the most intimate way that they can have, physically speaking. Okay? So let us just keep that idea for now. So if the intimacy of the body stands for the intimacy of the person, the predetermined meaning of the sexual act communicates, I unite my most intimate me with your most intimate you. Okay? And that is the second idea. So humans use the language of their bodies to communicate, and this language is inscribed in all by nature, and we are afraid to change its meaning. And it is now 9 o'clock, so I'm going to give you a break of 10 minutes. I know that if you listen to this for too long, you will start to agree with everything I say by nodding. So I don't want that. I want real reactions. So We're going to come back in 10 minutes and we continue with more of the philosophy of the body. So see you in 10 minutes.